And I just, here's an email that I got that, so let's, all of us, I haven't even crunched this around, but as a guy, once in a while, he has situations and he tries to run it by me and he says, if you were gonna, create a solution for this, what would you do? So this is a nice little tiny note. And so you guys up for that? Or is there any burning questions in the chat? Nobody, you guys haven't said anything.
The only thing I see here is what to do to protect against the hostile takeover. I don't want to make, this is a real estate mortgage seller financed, topic. So I'd like to stay on topic.
We never do that.
Hypothecation. We have a question about hypothecation. That's actually a new product that we rolled out here in Amerinote, which is hypothecation loans. So I can speak intelligently on that.
Yeah, so hypothecation loaning, instead of loaning money secured by the property, you loan money secured by the note that's secured by the property.
Correct.
So hypothecation, you're hypothecating the note, you're borrowing money against your secured asset, Correct. Anyway, let's just do this one. Here's a guy. I have a client who wants to buy raw land with timber on it near Aberdeen, Washington. I assume he lives in the same neighborhood here. He owns his home free and clear, and it's worth about $100,000. He has 25% he can put down, and he wants a 5-year loan. He has a mid 650 credit score. He's self-employed and can't prove his income on paper, but has bank statements he's willing to put up. The sales price is $40,000. He can put up the 25%, which is $10,000, and so there's a $30,000 note to be created. What would be your terms on something like this? Okay, let's talk about just the big picture, the collateral. The collateral is raw land with timber on it. What say you about the type of the collateral? Because when you're buying a note, and I don't lend, I mean, I could. If it's a business purpose loan, a lot of times I can get away with making a loan like on a flip investor, things like that. I'll never do consumer loans. But usually if I am brought in, I have the seller be the lender, like always, but I'm not the buyer, but I'm the buyer of the note. But I still want the seller to make the loan, and then I'll buy the note from them, all or in part, depending on the deal. So what can I do with raw land on timber? Now, real assets, Abby, I would have to say, I like the idea of raw land with timber. I mean, there's some value to that when assets, physical assets, land and things like that are more expensive than ever. But over here in Washington, that's not going to help me down here in Carson City, Nevada. But somebody's going to love that. And so I'm just thinking out loud here. Washington, can I foreclose in Washington? It's doable. At least if it's not owner occupied, I think you'd have a lot better chance. But in Washington, though, I think you have to be a licensed technically. Now, some attorneys up there don't know this, I guess, because I had someone that processed a foreclosure for me in Washington, but I was just kind of lucky that no one sort of caught that, because technically you have to be a licensed, NMLS licensed lender to even be the beneficiary on a deed of trust. There's a few states like that, and Washington's one of them. So like special default services on one other deal, they said, oh, you're not licensed, we don't even start the foreclosure for you. So anyway, so then I go, that's the downside. Raw land with timber, kind of a downside, because there's not that many buyers if you end up foreclosing. Washington foreclosures, not that good there. He owns his own free and clear, good. That means his probably has a low debt to income ratio. 25% down on timber. What do you say, Abby? Is that good? Or
that's a good start. If you have $100,000 on the free and clear home, you have the 25%. We're talking about 25% on 100, right?
No, he's got 25% of 40,000 because
I beg
the
your
land,
pardon.
the land's being, the sales price is 40,000. Let's just pretend like it's actually worth 40.
Yep.
And that's not a premium.
Yep.
The 10,000, 25%, that's 10,000 down. So
Yep.
On land, I mean, I'm sorry, on land, 25% is decent, but like I like more like 35 or 40% down on land. His credit score is okay. You know, that's pretty decent credit score. I understand being self-employed because I'm self-employed, and even if I could get a loan, I would just rather shoot myself than go through that process with a bank.
I have a question, and I don't know if what I would do, you know, just to play it safe. I don't even know if this is. I don't know if this is legal even, but maybe someone can chime in here. In the state of Washington, because it's been a while since we've done originations like this, but in the middle of origination, you know, if you want to add some extra security and maybe avoid the foreclosure process, if they, you know, because look, they got 10,000 out of pocket. I mean, it is 25%, but I mean, I don't know if it's going to make it or break this guy if he decides he can't pay and he walks away from that 10K. So you may want to see if you can do some sort of deed in lieu, have him sign that up front, and then if he doesn't pay, just file it. Again, you'd have to keep your fingers crossed that the.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a question for an attorney and in that state. And still, things like that, if they fight it though, it's relevant, you know.
For sure.
So, but yeah, so let's just pretend we're keeping it really simple. So they want a 5-year note. I don't know what face rate they're willing to pay. I don't know how much they can afford each month. For a guy who owns $100,000 house, buying 40,000, to me that sounds high, but I don't know. I'd really go probably 500. Feels like it would max it out. Calculate it. What's taking so long?
Wow.
I had a freeze. So
10.
What the heck? What happened is 500 times 60. Oh, that's because that is a 0%. Yeah, so even if he was only paying 5% and he wants a 5-year note, so it depends. So if I'm not going to loan, the seller, if they're wanting the buyer to get a loan, or this guy who's bringing me the deal wants them to get a loan, they're saying the seller is not anticipating a discount. Okay, so I would have to somehow minimize that discount, but that's a pretty quick amortization.
Yeah.
You know, principal, it's 400. So look at that. There's only over the whole term, it's only under $4,000 of interest on there. But I don't know. So there's a lot of pieces here, but like if I was going, okay, well, I don't want to make a very big discount, but what would it, if the note was this way, and that seems like probably feasible, probably most people think, oh, just like me, when I'm the buyer on owner carry, I don't want to pay more than 5%.
Right, but you got to understand though, I mean, I would say go as high, I would be high single digits to low double digits all day long, if not greater, because we're talking about a bare land property, which is not for consumer use. You're talking about a very small, in comparison to real estate transactions, loan amount. And you're talking about, you know, either you lengthen that payback period, which exposes you to way more risk, in my opinion, or you increase that interest rate to make it worth the while. I would.
So because it's a small deal and there's a short amortization, we can see that you
gotta have a
high. I would start at a 25% yield on this, so that would mean I could pay. Gee, that's a 60. You know, that's a 35% whack right there. A third of the note. So I don't know if the seller would be willing to take that discount.
Right.
And if I did, then if I put an even 20, that brings me at 50%, right? So if I'm investing 20 grand against a $40,000 asset on 50% loan to value, but it's a new note, I would actually on this, Abby, I would go and go, why does that guy own his property free and clear? Is it that he earned his money and he has really great financial habits and it was his own hard earned cash, or did he inherit it, or did he win the lottery? It would be important for me to get an idea of his ability to manage payments, but it looks good with a 650 credit score, but anyhow, but still there's a lot of problems with this, and I would probably not even want to do that.
Right.
But it's actually worth it at that, because I risk and I tie up 20 grand and I get back 33, 34 right. grand. Now that's worth doing.
Right.
I don't think the person is going to want that. But let's just pretend, to your point, Abby, that the person is going, yeah, I totally fine. I expect to pay 10% on this and I can afford 637. So me as the investor, I still come up with my 25%. In that case, I can pay a whopping, what, $3,000 more. Mm-hmm. But the problem is I'm still going to be capped at a 50 cents, probably. But let's just pretend I would go more than 50 cents against the collateral. We can see that, what was my other number? My 19,000 something, like 338. So that it gets with the person an extra $2,500. It's still a big discount. Yeah. I mean, look how high this would have to be. I'm just curious. I mean, I don't know until I just mess around with things. That's presuming he's okay with this. Okay, you can be my hard money lender. And that's the note.
Is he going to?
That brings me up to, okay, that's better from a discount standpoint. And then what would I get for putting out 24? I get 18 back. So it's still like the same. It's worth it. But it's just the risk. If it falls apart, then what? You have to be going, going to. And it's too short of a term. It's too short of a term to even do a partial. But anyway, the smaller the amount, the shorter the term, the higher this expectation yield needs to be to make it worth it your time to put the deal together. And to, because you can see the principal pay down is so fast. Look at this. It's, well, in this case, actually, well, 15% interest, but I don't think that's realistic. But you can see there's a lot of principal pay down. And so by the time you're at the end of it, the last few months, you're making less than $100 per month.
Right.
Interest. One time when I was really early on, I got all excited and I didn't understand this concept. And I'm like, I'm buying this awesome note at a 18% yield. And I got someone in at 14%. So I had a 4% spread and I was all like, whoa, this is great. And then I go, oh, it's a 36 month thing. And it's like, okay, for tying up your money, for dropping 90,000, if all you get in 36 months, it was ridiculous, like $5,000 or something like that. So the calculator looked like it was a great yield, but at the end of the day, it wasn't freaking really worth it, for the investor. So it's kind of a funny thing like that. Chancellor, can we hear you yet?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened to you.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Gotta love Windows. So the question was, right, so I'm picking houses up subject to and getting title that way, and then selling on the bond for deed at 9.5% usually, 30-year AMs, structuring out that way. So I was thinking about taking the sell side, right, the bond for deed side, getting I can't talk.
Hypothecation.
Thank you. Yes, hypothecation on the seller side, getting a loan on that part of it, and then just taking that and paying off the subject to side of it, right? So just kind of clearing that off, and put the bond for deed buyer on kind of on the first lien position that way. Your thoughts about that strategy?
So may I add? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted, what you said was, I'm taking it subject to, then doing a contract for deed, but I kind of want to get rid of that nerve-wracking institutional loan.
Totally agree.
So
totally agree.
Right, because yeah, that's the thing where it's like, if that no gets called, that puts everyone in a lot of stress, and you can get a lot of angry people that way. But also, if it got forgiven, though, that'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? But anyway, who knows about what debt forgiveness will play in and see things as they go forward in the next few months and years. But anyhow, the thing is, though, usually I'm guessing, Chance, and correct me if I'm wrong. And sorry, Abby, I cut you off.
No,
I'm the note queen.
you're the boss.
I'm the note queen.
I know it.
When you do a hair flip.
Uh,
Yeah, no, my kids are better at that. Anyway, it's that usually it's pretty high loan to value. Yes, like let's say the existing loan is probably relatively high, like 80, 90, 100%.
It depends. Sometimes I can take them over at 50% of LT or 50% of ARV essentially. So I'm getting some pretty good spreads on that side of it, making it worth me.
Nice.
To even if when I sell it on bond for deed, right, and even if I get a loan on that, I can come pretty close to paying off that subject to loan, even if it's only have 10 or 15 grand into it, just for a little bit of time, just to minimize the risk. Right, I'm willing to do that. Now, yeah, if I'm taking something over that doesn't have much equity, then yeah, I doubt that getting a loan on the bond for deed, even at a 9.5% interest rate on a 30-year AM, maybe 65%, 70%, I'm thinking of loan to note value, right? To where even if I put all that on the first loan, I'd still have, 5 or 6, possibly 7 years left on the first loan as a subject to.
Yeah. Go ahead, Abby.
Are these loans recourse or non-recourse?
On the course of subject twos that I'm taking over, right, institutional, and then the ones that I am bond for deeding on my sell side, then no, they're non-recourse. I'm using the property just as collateral only.
Gotcha. So the non-recourse piece may affect. I mean, it's not if the LTV or the note to value, as you had mentioned, is not spectacular. I shouldn't say spectacular, but acceptable. The non-recourse piece would come more into play than it would for a non-recourse. So equity outweighs the credit situation or lack thereof, especially if the corporation was just created for the sole purpose of that particular purchase. So of course, this all goes away if you're dealing with a publicly traded company, which 99.9% of the time is not the case. But that is, I think it's a decent plan. What's the balance, may I ask, that you're looking to hypothecate, or what kind of loan amounts are we talking about?
Yep. So in my area, I've started kind of on the lower income side, where our local lenders here aren't lending in anything less than 65,000, just because it makes them a high fee loan when they do that. So that's kind of the space I was playing in, is on the 65 and below. Yeah. Knowing that they, probably will not be able to refi me out at any point in time, right? So I'm going to be carrying this note for a majority of the time, and I'm fine with that, right? I like the residual income; that's fine with me. But that's where it is. So most of them are on the 50 to 60 to 70K sell side.
Gotcha. And what's the interest rate that you're charging on the bond for deed?
Some 9, some 9.5, some 9.9.
Gotcha. And just to clarify for everyone out there, bond for deed is the same thing as promissory note, in layman terms. So bond, in Louisiana, that's how they roll down there, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yep. Neapolitan laws back from when France had us.
Wow. That's very interesting. So I'm sorry, you said 9.5%?
Yeah.
What's your, are you wanting to do, so Chance, basically, the loan to value or investment to value is going to be pretty similar, right? The concept is how much money we'll invest for reasonably risk against a property, regardless of the deal structure, right? So basically, 65 for me would be high on that kind of, I'd stay at 50, because in the South, especially, I've gotten bitten because the way things cash flow, it seems like they should be worth more than they are. And somehow the BPO, when I buy the note, is the BPO is half that by the time I take the property back. I don't know. It can be very deceiving. And so for me personally, I'm just talking out loud, I'd stay at 50%. So basically this will only work for those subject twos where the LTV on the existing is 50% or less, or pretty close to that. You may want to throw in some of your own money, your you're the guy that's was talking about the checkbook control, aren't you?
Yep.
Chance?
Yep.
Yeah. So still, I think you're looking at that, and then I just want to make this point because I think this is why you're thinking of wanting to hypothecate versus selling off a front end partial. Can we just show that difference? Is there the reason because you don't want to give up that, even though you expect them to go long term because they're not going to be able to refinance? I'm assuming you just don't want to give up the quite as much, or
Yeah.
what's your idea of not wanting to just sell off a partial, or is it? I think contract for deed is kind of tough to find someone who want that. Maybe it's a little.
Yeah, and just because the underlying situation and structure would involve a subject to me, that's just adding risk on top of risk.
Right.
So if I can clear off.
Unless okay, if you don't mind, can we just take one of your things for an example and just bite into one avatar of an average deal? Because then I just want to play with the numbers on the screen. Is that okay, Chance?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so give me one where it's an average property price, average buyer, and 50% loan to value subject to loan.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that on my sell side, I'm using 75K on my sell side.
Okay, how much down did they put?
Normally, I'm getting 5 to 10% down.
Okay, so let's pretend it's on the good side. So the 90% loan or contract for deed, whatever, 67.5. And then you said you're doing a flat 9.5. I'm guessing that's very friendly in your state.
Yeah, for secondaries and whatnot, that's pretty much the
rate. and it's affordable because anything below 120,000, people can pay 9-10%, and two people working minimum wage jobs can afford that payment. So then how long's the you doing 30 years?
30-year AMs, yep.
Okay, that's pretty long. So that's great for a whole. So here's the deal, right? So on this, is that right? Something like this. That's P&I, not taxes and insurance.
Yep.
And am I correct in saying divided by 2 that let's say the existing loan's under $35,000 or something?
The one I'm taking subject to on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the remaining.
Your note. No, it could be more because we said 50% of the value of the property would be more like 37,000, right?
The UPBs that I'm taking over on the subject twos typically are about 50% of the ARV. Okay. So I'm taking over subject to anywhere from 40 to 60.
Is 75 the ARV or no?
No, yeah, 75 is the ARV. Yep.
So what is the price at acquisition?
As far as what I'm taking over subject to?
Like this 75,000 property, I guess you're gonna fix it up and then put someone in, or no?
I don't do a whole lot of rehab. My rehabs are usually 10, 12, 13K. Anything more than that, I usually just wholesale the deal off.
Gotcha. So, but it's move-in ready for a family.
After a little bit, yeah. Okay.
So here, that's the important thing. Rehab or paper is traditionally a lot riskier, and just because, like, I had a, anyway, people probably heard me say this, but I bought a portfolio of notes in the Missouri area, and the numbers seem like it worked out, but what I wasn't paying attention to, I had more headaches with it than I wanted, is because by the time I got, a good 30% of them back over 5 years, and I got them back, they weren't ever rehabbed from when they bought it, or they started rehabbing and tearing walls out and doing their own electrical work. So I had an asset that was worth much, much less. So I get into trouble when, like, people that can only, and I'm just saying this out loud, not implicating your particular, I don't know how you do business, but for me, as buying a front and partial, or let's say making a loan against this, I'm going, you know what? If the rehab isn't done, someone who only puts 5% down, and they probably don't have a ginormous bunch of reserves, so they don't have the money to really fix up their property. So if it's not already fixed up pretty good, and then they default, I end up with a property that's worth a lot less than I thought it was at the end of the day. So I prefer things where the rehab has been a little more aggressive. But there again, everything's individual because you can have people in that same market where these properties are who are very comfortable with the asset class and will loan you money out of their self-directed IRAs, you know, in a heartbeat. But I'm just saying from me being far away from the collateral, this is how I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
Yep. And I totally agree on, so I also do private lending through the self-directed. And when I'm on a private lending, either a first or second lien, I do it as an as-is value, you know, not taking into account what it's going to look like after the rehab. So that way, I don't care if they do the rehab or not. I know what my collateral is right now.
Right.
Okay, so this one, how much, when you bought it, how much was that?
So the UPB was, in this case, I think it was 31 was the UPB. And then I put in, you know, 10K of my own money just to kind of lipstick it, clean it up, you know, maybe replaced a couple of window units, whatever was in there. So all in, I'm probably in at 40, you know, including the UPB. And then I'm selling it on the 75 K on my bond for deed side with the 9.5 on the 30-year AM with the 5 to 10% down.
And you're looking to pay down that's got you that 40.
You're trying to get your seed capital. And that's why I had this thing that I was setting up because he wanted to keep his seed capital, get his seed capital out, and he was willing to keep the remainder interest as his profit. And I thought that worked for me. And I do that here locally too. It's like if I carry paper on something, I'll sell off the front of it, get my capital back or nearly so, and then keep the remainder payment. So that's a really nice way to build your own retirement. So what kind of interest rates are your people, like someone who would make you a loan, like the loan amount is actually only 31. That seems to me pretty easy to get 31 out, except for that's a lot of payments. But what do you think? What's the interest rate? Someone who would loan you, let's say $35,000, which is less than 50 cents. What rate would they be looking at?
So taking into the account of my 9.5 that I'm getting on the 75K, right, and having a decent little DCR there, probably, you know, I've gotten anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7%. Just kind of depends on who my buyer is on that side of it.
Oh, so you mean like your investor who will give you a loan against this?
Yeah.
So that's great. You said 5, 6, or 7?
Yep.
So are they, and is that out of self-directed accounts and things?
Yep. And just, you know, money sitting aside in the savings account at 0.05 interest, right? That's usually my.
So this is a good point. When people, Chance is brilliantly articulating that, you know, most people go, oh, I have to give up 9.5. You know, people are greedy. They want 8, 9, 10, 11%. Look at that. To be successful in the note business or creating arbitrage is all about, it's not just about the deal. It's mainly about your financial partners. It's your exit strategy. Because if I had to pay my investor 9.5, I have to sell it at par. But if I got someone like Chance does, he's developed his investing partners. That is almost the most valuable piece, because it doesn't even matter. He could buy a 7% note. The face rate could be 7, and he could sell it off at 5% and still make a 2% arbitrage. So building your network of back pocket investors who are comfortable enough with the asset to actually do the deal, put the money in, they know they're comfortable with Chance and they're comfortable with the concept of the investment. I mean, that, and they'll accept that 5, 6, or 7. That's what everyone should really aspire to, because that's where the money is. If you have a lot of cheap money that trusts you and understands the asset class, boom, you can make money with almost anything, because now he's making a spread on that. It's kind of like your arbitrage, you got arbitrage probably both ways, with the rate that's on the existing mortgage and then the rate that your private money will come in, even if it's a little higher. Say, are your bank notes what, 3, 4, 5% that you're taking subject to?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just pretend that you want to get, I'm only going to get out your UPB because I know you got 10,000 down. So, you know, you did pretty good getting your, seed capital, because the less money you need, and this is not for you, Chance, but really the less anybody needs up front, the more they'll get overall, which is the whole point of owner financing. The more You can sell for more, you get more overall if you're willing to wait for it. Same with selling notes. I'm gonna just work this around as a partial. Okay, and let's see what happens. I just wanna see what would happen if you sold off and you could get someone to take, I'm gonna even do better because they're less than 50 cents on the dollar. So then I'm gonna go, how much of the payment would they need? Gosh, wow, they only need 5.5 years. And then you have the rest of that. That's incredible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how much of the note are you actually selling? I'm gonna say, let's see, if you say we're gonna get 64 payments, 31, I'm doing it backwards. Yeah, when you're borrowing at less than the face rate, it doesn't apply. If the face rate on your contract was 6 and you had an investor that needed 9.5, then you're selling more of the note.
Yeah.
Right. So then there's a discount. So I can't even imagine you. But so there again, is it just a paperwork thing that people would rather have a loan against this? Yeah, a loan. So basically, it's not like you're loaning against the contract. You're just refinancing the property. Isn't that true?
So the bond for deed, right?
That's just a refinance of the property with private money.
So with the bond for deed, the title stays in my name. It doesn't transfer, so it's not a mortgage per se.
Right. So yeah.
So yeah, but it I can't go on title, or I can't put a lien against the property because of the state law. Is I can't, my buyer on the bond for deed is in first lien position, so I can't technically refi, or else I would just want a community bank or credit union and refi with them, right? But they don't want anybody even being on second lien. So that's why I kind of have to hypothecate the note. So that way it's just kind of a loan against the note, right? And that's how I get the money out.
They don't mind you recording. What would that be? Beneficial collateral. What do you call it? Transfer collateral lien or whatever. Beneficial transfer of lien that's recorded on that.
Yeah, I never even got to that part of it.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so in that case, instead of like, if this was a note and mortgage and not in Louisiana or whatever, I guess, I don't know, depending on that law, it's easier to sell off a partial sometimes than the hypothecation. I can't articulate it. I just know from hanging around the conversation for the last couple of decades that it's more, if things go sideways, it's potentially a little tougher, a little weirder to handle. But I know like guys in Texas who do a lot of that, although he shifted to wanting to buy a piece of the note and then loan you part to buy the note. He doesn't want to just do 100% hypothecation. But with these amounts, if you can get this money, I even forgot what your main point was, because now selling a partial doesn't work for regulatory wise. And also it doesn't make sense because of the rate you can borrow money at is lower than the face rate on the note.
Yeah, and that was kind of the whole point of it is if I sold the partial, I'm taking a discount on, a haircut on the yield, right? By doing this way, I can.
Not really, because am I missing something? Sometimes I can't do public now, but am I missing something? For 31,000, you sell them off 64 payments of the note. You sell off. Am I missing something? Yeah, because the note. But that's going backwards. They'd only pay 28,000 if they had to get at par. See, you're not really taking a discount. You're making a premium, but it still sounds to me like you're selling the note, but you can't do that anyway. So, right?
Right, because he need the partial. Don't you need to train in order for, if he's not on title, he can't assign.
No, I am on title.
I beg your pardon. If you're not able to refinance because the buyer's in the first position, right?
Right.
So how would he transfer convey title over to the buyer unless they're not in the first?
I think
that's the hypothecation.
Yeah, but the hypothecation is, I think, would be fine if there's no prohibitions against, you know, securing your investor with a collateral transfer of beneficial interest, something like that. That's usually what it's called. I haven't done a ton of it, but some of it. And oddly, Dave Kurtzman just said that he's looking to make, just so you guys know that it's around. This was just from a few days ago. I'm looking to make a 400,000 loan secured by a first loan of 850. So that's 50% of the value of the note, which again, that 850 note is secured by a building worth 1.7 million. So he's very well protected. And he should have an attorney drop that hypothecation, but I mean, check that out. You can loan money for 400,000 against the note for 8,850 that's secured by a property worth 1.7. So in a way, it's the same as selling off a partial, but whoever's borrowing money on that 850 note, they don't want to give away the upside of it. Like remember, Abby, when we bought that one, and gosh, we only had to borrow, it was a really hairy deal, and we only had to borrow like 150, 160.
Yeah.
To buy like almost $400,000 worth of thing. But it was a real strange situation where, you know, it was weird, but it's performed perfectly. But back to you, Chance, and gosh, it's almost 7. But what was your question again? What can I've lost track of.
No, it was just a thoughts on that strategy, right? Taking over subject to, doing a bond for deed on the sell side, and then hypothecating the note to pay off the subject to.
I like it.
I like that because that makes everybody sleep better at night. As long as your investors, you have a good relationship with them. As long as everyone, there's a really good balance of risk and reward. As long as, you know, they understand and what ifs if this goes sideways, but because a bunch of subject twos can be kind of a nightmare, because what if the loan gets called on all 100 in your portfolio at the same time, and then you've already promised this property to these buyers. I mean, that could, I'm exaggerating, you know, but like what if you couldn't honor because the notes got called, because the title transferred. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yep, totally.
Yeah, and on a property that you just have to be really careful with that strategy. I think it's brilliant and can work, and I have some of it in my portfolio, but like you have to have a lot of disclosure. I would well document it written. I might even take a video, because when people are real happy that you're solving a problem right at the beginning, they might not be as happy when they go, wait, I'm unexpectedly able to try to qualify for a new loan, except you're on my loan. I have to get rid of this other loan. And pretty soon they're not so happy. And then they start screaming, and then you look like a jerk.
Yep. And the disclosures are there, limited power of attorney, you know, kind of the affirmation that it was a distress situation. You know, they know they're selling a property below market value. The only other side of that is, what was the point I wanted to make there? Yeah. So if trying to go out and get another loan, you know, when I'm buying subject to, hey, are you looking to purchase a new house in a year, 2 years, 3 years? And they're like, well, you know, we're just going to rent, just kind of, you know, clean up some stuff for a while. But every now and then, you know, my thoughts were, if they come back and say, no, we're ready to buy a new house yet, but our debt to income ratio is still showing this. I thought in Dodd-Frank, in one of the provisions, they said that if the loan was there for, or if you can prove that you owner financed it for more than a year or something like that, then they couldn't claim that debt to part of your debt to income ratio.
I'm not sure about that, maybe someone else, but to me, the way I've gotten around with some of my people is we've set it up so that they have a stream of income that compensates for them. So far, it hasn't been an issue, and it's only been an advantage to them, because there I am keeping their credit score, you know, squeaky clean by keeping their payments perfect.
So technically that's right, because my payments to their bank, since I'm doing a direct, would qualify as income to them. So essentially it'd be a net zero wash.
So what I've done is created a, you know, for the underwriter needs a lease agreement or whatever, just showing that, hey, yeah, the money didn't go to their bank account, but look, it's gone. This is their account. which I control now, but I screen cap, the payment history or send all the statements and say, look, it's their loans being paid. I'm just not paying them directly. I'm paying their servicer directly. And so usually that has worked, but bank stuff is not my forte. But I've just created lease agreements so that debt to it doesn't affect their debt to income. The asset offsets the liability.
Thank you.
If you say, hey, I'm paying you rent, and then we say, oh, well, I just asked them to pay my rent to the bank instead on the sub twos, but it doesn't affect their bottom line DTI because it's a wash. You know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for that longtime listener and viewer and absorber of your content. So appreciate you.
Thank you. That's really awesome stuff that you're bringing to the. I'm sure this was very interesting to a lot of people. So I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
You know what? We are at the top of the hour. Is there anything else before we kind of wind our little selves down here?
There were a couple questions I saw from Axel with regards to. I think we got the IRA Chase 401k with Vanguard. That was a question. And then, of course, my favorite subject, I'm interested in cryptocurrency. Can you share some thoughts how to get in? This is very lengthy conversations, I would imagine. But I just want to say that if there's anything I can do or speak about, my door's always open. And you can reach me. I'm going to put my phone number up right here.
Yeah, but as far as like crypto, you guys see what I was bar hopping. I didn't know how to spell bar hopping because I accidentally did that Saturday and I didn't mean to, but I was going, I'm just going to write letters to the people who won't let me in and just say, hey, when you're ready to let me in without a mask, because I cannot dumb myself down even for a minute or violate my spiritual sensitivity by doing this face diaper thing. But 3 out of 3 times they just let me in and I'm like, I'm not hungry. Well, I'll sit and have a drink because I want to support them because I got in and I'm having a nice time. So I actually got a little tipsy on Saturday bar hopping, and then I wrote a funny article about it. Anyway, that's really important to notes and under financing. But Bitcoin, you know what? It's up to what it was over 61,000 just a couple days ago, and then it dropped because I think India banned it. I don't know if that's the reason.
A lot of stuff happening with whales, big dollar players coming in and out of the market and manipulating the market with something called Tether, which is a digital currency that is pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar. So there's ways to manipulate it. It's very short-term manipulation. It's very transparent, but you just don't know who's doing it. And because you can see these whales entering the market if you go to bitcoin.com, .org/dev, and you can go right to the developer site and you can see the blockchain and you can see, $1.6 billion just entered the blockchain. So a whale just entered, and then that same amount gets pulled out a couple days later. There's manipulation there, but that shouldn't stop anyone at all from investing. And the easiest way to invest is to go to Coinbase or Kraken or
Coinbase.
Yep, one of these sites. Set up an account and you buy some. Yep.
You know what's crazy is that back in the day before we invested because we just thought, oh, this is a new thing. It just seems like a good place to diversify. So we got in kind of early, but before we knew it, this company that is an exchange started in China, but now they have this US version. I just bought their token, their Binance token, which is like buying a share of their exchange company. And that's, my gosh, it's up like 20 times. Mm-hmm. It's better than almost anything else. And I'm going, my goodness, that was a happy accident.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're not financial advisors. And I listen to a lot of people who are smart and they can have wildly opposing ideas. They can say, Bitcoin's still going to crash because once the quantum financial system is implemented, it's not going to be needed, or blah, blah, blah. Other people saying Bitcoin to the moon, same with XRP, Ethereum, XRP, XLM. What are some of the, even Litecoin?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends on what who you are and what you like. If you want to keep it simple, I would recommend Bitcoin. I'm not a financial advisor, but I've been in this space long enough to know that, you know, there's the, you know, the jokers out there or not. I mean, if you just want to play it safe, buy some Bitcoin, buy some Ethereum and sit tight. Let it sit on an exchange. You can put it in a hardware wallet to take custody of your assets. There's many different ways that you can engage. You can also go into the walled garden environment that PayPal created, which you can go to PayPal and buy Bitcoin. The only thing is you're not allowed to remove the Bitcoin off of their platform, which is why it's a walled garden. If you want to take your money, they'll pay you in cash because they're smart and they know that Bitcoin is going to be, you know, $1 million in the year 2030, you know, so it's a buy and hold.
Maybe we don't know. The thing is, we don't know. So it's kind of like we were thinking, gosh, we could sell one to recap all of our seed capital times double and just let the rest ride and go, okay, if it goes up, great. If it doesn't, we're riding for free. But the point being, even with, to me, some of these cryptos and gold and silver, physical gold and silver, I think that, along with real estate and things like that, of course, but a little right now, before whatever's going to happen happens,
That's
a
right.
little bit will go a long way. So
Yeah.
even if you only had $1,000 to spread around different places,
Do it.
I tell my kids, it's like the best thing you can do with a little bit of money that you have left over every month is go buy some more silver and just stick. Or if you're not investing in yourself, in your own business and your education, things like
Yeah.
that. But,
Good advice.
and they all have a little bit of crypto as well. Some that I started them with after my mom died, and then some that they've done on their own in addition on top of that. But when you have something that can go, think of Bitcoin started at, I could have bought in at like $100 or less when someone first told me about it. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
But just think about that. Think how far $1,000 would have gone if I had bought in at 100, and then 1,000 times 60.
You would not be hosting this
million?
show right now, probably.
Yeah, I would. Anyway, thank you for those questions. As always, I appreciate you guys so much. I love this little community and the people that show up and how wonderful everyone is. I just want to remind everyone for if they want, they can access the resources here. And then there's the podcast that we have. I guess our next meeting is the third Tuesday of April, which I think is April 13th, if you want to make a note of it. I may be starting something else because there's so many things that are so interesting to me that I'm finally at the place after hiding under a rock for basically the last 2 years. I feel energized again, and I want to start just talking about things that I think matter and the huge shifts that we're going through as a human collective that are really difficult at times, but like incredibly exciting. And it's a balance of how to walk through that, not just with your investment portfolio, but your soul's portfolio, how you're diversified or balanced, with everything. So anyway, go out there and create financial solutions, one mom and pop to another, and use your powers for good. I love you, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone who contributed, especially thanks Abby and Axel. And
Thank you.
Denise, and I'm sorry if I forgot someone. Take care.
Take care.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.